It's time for The Breakaway, presented by Frontier Communications.
Thank you, Jake. First time over here on The Breakaway, so I figured it would be a chance to let people get to know you a little better about your childhood, how you got involved in the beautiful game. So first question, who introduced you to the sport?
I have to say my parents. My father was a soccer lover. He played. He was a goalkeeper. Coming from Italy, of course, he wanted me to play soccer, not only me, but as well my brother. So from a young age, he always took me to places, took me around to play, but also he took me to see his games when he used to play in Venezuela.
And did you ever want to be a goalkeeper, or it was always striker for you?
No, for sure, definitely no goalkeeper. That's one thing I knew for sure since a young age. But I never knew I was a midfielder first.
Okay.
When I was young, I used to play number 10 in the teams that I used to play. And then actually when I started playing more competitive, meaning a little more professional, then that's when I became forward. And then in college, I played center back, defensive mid, all the way. So
and then worked your way back up to the top.
Back to the center forward position.
What's the first game you remember watching as a kid?
That's a good one. I think always my father's matches, but I remember very much the 1978 World Cup as being the first time that I kind of fell completely in love with the game, watching the games, rooting for Italy, and it was a tremendous World Cup. So I remember that very, very clearly.
So soccer seems to have always been a part of your life. When did you know you were going to make it professionally, that you could play soccer as a career?
That's interesting. Since I was young, I always felt I was going to be a soccer player, that I will do this because it's what I love to do. I have a passion for it. So interesting enough is that sometimes, when I was in my building, 8, 9 years old, I used to think, oh, do the people around this neighborhood know that they have a professional soccer player to be here? So it's like I always knew that I was gonna do in the future.
That's incredible. And so you moved to the U.S. to play soccer, college soccer. Mm-hmm. Long Island. What attracted you to Long Island?
Wow, that's an interesting story too. I was actually offered a scholarship also in Boston University. And they were kind enough, to be able to give me anything that I needed. But I fell in love in some way with New York. Also, I had 2 friends there. And at the end, I felt that New York, the city, was where I wanted to be. I thought that I will get more from it. And I decided to go to Long Island University. Thanks also to Arnie Ramirez that gave me the opportunity. Now, my second father, as I say, sometimes he gave me the opportunity to get a college degree. Gave me a full scholarship and the opportunity to come to the United States.
Would you consider him a mentor, especially as in your coaching career?
I'm lucky enough to say that I have a few mentors, but he's definitely one of them.
So you remained in Long Island after you graduated, played for the Rough Riders, mm-hmm. where you were teammates with guys like Tony Meola, and I read in an article, that an interview he had done a while back, that he always knew you were going to coach. You guys would sit in the back of the bus, talk tactics after games. When did you know you were going to coach?
I always had a feeling that at some point I would be coaching. I loved, it's a passion of mine. Every time that I was having a practice, I would look into, writing it down. I had a little book, try to understand, talk to the coach, like, why are you doing this? And try to understand, how difficult it is to be able to put a group together and manage them. So it was always a passion of mine, so I always knew that at some point I would be coaching.
So in an interview I read that you did back in 2010, you said that you always wanted to help soccer grow in Venezuela and the U.S. with MLS, and that you felt privileged to be a part of such a special time in this country and soccer. So looking back to that time, the early days, now you're here as a coach in the same league that you debuted professionally in. What does that mean to you to come full circle?
The first thing that comes to my mind is that a lot of years have passed. So that's for sure. But no, I feel very proud of being able to be an ambassador of Venezuela here, in working really hard to make sure that we were credible in worldwide. And then I felt very proud to be at the beginning of Major League Soccer and help grow the sport and put, my little piece of sand to, what is soccer now in the United States. But always, I felt very much right away at home here. I was welcome, and I always appreciate everything that has happened here in the United States.
You were lucky enough to debut professionally with the New York team at the time, Metro Stars, that are now the Red Bulls, where we'll be playing this weekend. On that team, the first year, Sporting KC's head coach Peter Vermees, RSL's head coach Mike Pecky joins you guys 2 years later. And then there's just a wave of other head coaches in this league right now that played against you on different teams in those early years. I wanted to know, who surprised you the most as continuing along to be a coach of the guys that played in those early years with you?
I think we had great guys, as you mentioned, and other guys like Donadoni that are coaching also in Italy and other parts of the world. But I would say, Petke, just because he was the younger one, right. He was young, he was the guy coming in, and he was great because he brought so much energy. But I really, thought all the guys had different great qualities to become coaches.
Well, Gio, thank you so much for coming on Timbers in 30 this week and sharing some of your stories with us. Good luck this weekend in New York. We can't wait for the game.
Thank you.
Thank you.